So today I'm just going to have a general little bit of a chit chat with you guys, and this is regards with 3 chronographs that are all basically made by SEIKO. And I'm kicking off with this one here, this sports chronograph that has an alarm, and being that it's all analog, this is very fascinating to me. I like to also just add that there is another version of this one, a slightly older version, where I think this one is dated 2003, whereas the earlier version we're looking at the sort of early 90s. Now the difference is this one uses the module 7T62. On the earlier models they use the 7T32. And the main difference is, because cosmetically they look very, very alike, this one has 2 pushers and a crown all on this side, whereas on the other version, the early version, has 2 pushers on this side, and it features a second crown at the sort of 4 o'clock-ish position. The functions are pretty much the same with regards to sort of the time, the date, and the chronograph and the alarm. On this one here, the alarm is all adjusted through the crown and through the pushers, where on the earlier version, the alarm side here is all adjusted through the crown. So both can use the alarm, and they can also use this sub-dial here, because it's using an hour and minute hand, as a dual time as a possibility. But remember, when that's set at a dual time, the alarm function isn't going to be as accurate as when it's set to the home time, obviously. Now, I just want to point something else out. There is sort of variance on this movement here throughout the SEIKO range. And there was one particular I'm going to mention, was the Flightmaster. Now, this all became the hype, and I believe that TGV sort of made the hype and increased the prices overnight. I was fortunate enough to get a couple of these before the hype. I bought them around about sort of the £100 mark, and when I came to flip them on the secondary market, I managed to get over £300 for each of them, so I did very well. So now with the Flightmaster, the prices are sort of more realistic and more affordable, but I believe this one here is going to be its new replacement, and I believe that this does have more functionality over the other one. Well, the other one was a Flightmaster, but the bezel was a slide rule. To be honest, I don't think there was many of you would actually use that. It was more sort of the appearance, the cosmetic look. For me, I never used it because I don't really understand that side, and I have sort of modern equipment that can actually calculate these kinds of things for me. So let me just quickly explain what I mean by more functionality, and this is with regards to the bezel, because this is a counting bezel and it counts up to 1 hour. It can also be used as a timer. So let me give you a couple of examples. Say I've just gone to my doctor's, I'm sitting in the waiting room, and I set the marker right there on the minute. So there's the marker point, and there is the minute hand. So now I know exactly how long the doctor has wasted my time. Now for another example, say I ordered a pizza, I'm going to collect it myself. So they say it's going to be 10 minutes. So from 10 minutes from here, it's going to be down here. So it's just a matter of getting the marker set in place. So it's about there. So when the minute hand hits the marker, there, your pizza should be ready. So you don't need to take this watch to the abyss and pretend that you're a diver. It does work above the sea level. Now, I'm not going to do a tutorial on this module. I've already done this before, and for an example, I did it on the Flightmaster. What I want to look at is sort of the appearance, the look of this watch. Now, from a distance, I guess you could mistake this for a particular famous Swiss brand. But the thing is, it still has a look of being SEIKO as well, and having the applied logo there on the sort of 3 o'clock position. This is where I think something like this is just going to become more sort of sought after, and because it's so much more sort of user friendly, it's more sporty looking. And yes, the Flightmaster was an incredible watch, and it still is an incredible watch, but for some it's just a little bit too busy, and not everyone walks around in flying jackets, whereas this, you could be James Bond 1 minute, or you could be sitting in a restaurant and sort of counting how long your partner has been in the bathroom. When I look at this watch in a sort of angle like you're seeing now, I do see the obvious with the big round dial, but I also see a very square looking watch as well. Let me sort of explain. So sort of try and forget the dial with the bezel and just concentrate with the corners of each of the 4 lugs here, and you can see that it's rectangular and has that sort of domino, very square look, and it's all hidden by the bezel with the curve on this side. So when it's upright like so, you just see the lugs pointing out, but I can't help resisting looking at those lugs. They are just very, very sort of basic to me, very just there. They're just blocks. It's like there's no effort whatsoever when they put the design onto this watch. Sorry for all the fingerprints, but hey, this is how it is when you're working without fluffy mittens. This is more interesting with those big pushers and the bigger crown in the middle, and it has these sort of parts here on the pushers, and this isn't screwed down. This is just basically pure cosmetic. I guess that's sort of to match the crown there. But hey, it's all part of the design, and it's looking very, very manly indeed. I have to say, it is very masculine, this watch. It's just very bulky, but it also has this sort of finer side to it, where on the actual 3 sub-dials there is a chrome ring. The hands are all chromed, and even on the applied markers and the center parts, even though that's loom, it's all polished as well. It's very black indeed at the back, and the lettering and the numbers and all the markers there on the sort of chapter ring is all in white. So it's just a very sort of black and white with that silver polished look, sort of a mix of being a sort of a tall watch and a sort of a dressy sports watch at the same time. I know for some of you, you don't like the sort of static look where it's just has that appearance that actually nothing is happening, because you are more used to the main sort of second hand being in the middle, counting those seconds per minute, whereas here it's just using this small sub-dial. I can understand that, but because of the type of movement with this one, by pressing start up here, you are using the chronograph hand, which is measuring 1/5 of a second. So basically for every second it is moving 5 times. So it has the appearance now it is a more of a mechanical automatic watch. So maybe that is something that sort of helps you on that side. I have to say that I do like the second hand as well being central, but with the sub-dial ticking as well, it's sort of making it a little bit more interesting. Let's have a look at some measurements and sort of give you a better idea. So the lug to lug is just over 49 millimeters. Lug width 21.5. Casing including crown is 45.5 almost, and it weighs 1.65 tons. Yes, I may have exaggerated with the weight, but it is a big bulky watch. Let's have a look a little bit more into the dial here. It has some red markings sort of on the sort of minute counter at the top there, and on the alarm here it has these blue parts there, just sort of to break it up a little bit. I do really like the depth in the dial, and overall I think it's a very sort of all-rounder, a very attractive looking watch. And the thing is, they are becoming a little bit harder to find. I mean, I've just picked this one up here and I have been searching for one, but prices are really starting to go up on these, and I feel like this is the one that is going to become more collectible over the Flightmaster, and I can see prices only going up and up because this is a more usable watch, day to day. Because I like the movement used in these Seikos, I like the movement also that's in this Pulsar. But this is my Pepsi Pulsar. I have done a review on this on my early videos, which is probably very cringe, but the thing is, there is the same movement being there, the 7T62 with the alarm at the 6 o'clock position. Now this is the same year basically. I think they're around about the sort of 2003. This Pulsar here is very, very rare indeed, and this is the 100-meter version. I did do a review on the 200-meter version, and I was able to find a few of these. But with regards to the 100-meter version, these are just rare, like dodo poo. And it's one that I'm never going to part with. I just like that sunburst dial, blue dial, with the white sort of sub-dials there. Has the date there at 3 o'clock. Pulsar is printed, it's not applied, and it does have a 120 click unidirectional bezel. Now, looking at the case, it has more curve. Now it's not square, it has this curve here, which is actually, just in my eye, just a little bit more pleasing. There is less sort of squareness on this side as well, plus the pushes are just the right size, they're not overkill. I like the side here. You can see that it has a really nice sort of shape. It's more rounder. It's got drilled out lugs, and the bezel, look at the beef on that bezel there, plenty to grip with. I really just like this cosmetically all over. Now this would have come originally on a bracelet. Well, I only bought it with a broken bracelet, so I've just put this aftermarket SEIKO one on because I like sort of that design. It just sort of gives it that sort of 80s look, even though it's a little bit later. But I really do sort of like this sort of style of watch, and it has sort of a little bit of everything from this one here, apart from just those sort of more refinements, like this one would have an applied SEIKO logo, whereas this is just printed, and it just has more polishing and sort of more detail, more chrome sort of going around those subdials, whereas this has sort of been stripped away from that. So maybe that is why SEIKO and Pulsar sort of exist. They're sort of side by side, but I'm still very confused because I've picked up another rare Pulsar that actually is on par with all the details what I've just mentioned. I give you this Pulsar, the Y182-6D20. Now I believe this is dated around 99, and I think this is using the movement 7T32. It's a Japan movement. Let me sort of explain a little bit more about this and show you some more details. Before I go any further, this is a NOS, so this means new old stock. It is brand new and it's never been used. There isn't a mark on it, and I've got all the box and all the paperwork. No, I'm not about to flip this watch. Well, not just yet. I want to sort of enjoy it. Most of all my watches are bought by myself, so I can actually have hands-on experience. So with any comments that come in, at least I can actually explain how it feels, because when you buy a watch and it's just from pictures and it lands on your wrist, it sort of looks a little bit different, and sometimes it can disappoint you. So this is why I like to really get to hold these watches so I can really live it. Well, this one certainly does have that more sort of age-related sort of look, especially the fold-over links there. You can really see it, but I like that. That sort of really gives it sort of that 70s look. Has a screw-down case back, but whereas this one uses the 7T32 movement, as I said, mentioned before, there's one pusher there, there's two pushers on that side, and then you get this extra little crown that's hidden down here, and this is all to do with adjusting the alarm side here. And because it's independent, whereas on the other two you have to pull the crown out, you have to hack the time to be able to change the alarm dial down here, whereas this is independent, where you can pull the crown out and adjust this freely to exactly how you want it without stopping the time. So it makes it sort of a very sort of user-friendly watch if you're traveling overseas and you want that sort of second time zone. The dial is the killer on this piece because sometimes it's very deep, sort of royal blue, and then suddenly it just pops with this sheen of, it's incredible blue. And you can really see the details on the dial here where you got the pulsar, which is actually applied. So now we're on par with the SEIKO. It's got some redness in the dial there with red hands, and it even has a red second hand for the chronograph, and it works just the same way. It has that 1/5 of a second. So you could actually just leave that running and have that appearance that it is an automatic. And down here, this is just your adjustment button with regards to the alarm side. That's it. So chronograph and alarm, sort of keeping it very separate. The other big side to this is that big bold bezel. And look at the edging on that, all polished. And it's got those sort of thumb, I don't know what you would call that, but it's somewhere where you can really grip to. I think this is more sort of to do with appearance and look, because it sort of toned it down. It sort of removed itself more from a diver and becomes something a little bit of a mixed bag. I mean, the lugs are completely changed now. They've got a little bit of detail that's sort of got a bit of an angle there, and it's all sort of brushed as well. And then they've gone for the polishing actually on the bezel itself, and even on the top part here, where this part here, this is all sort of polished with the backing of being sort of sandblasted, and it's 120 click, so very sort of usable as well. I really do like that on this side you haven't got the slab side, it's not plain, you've now got a couple of buttons, and on this side one pusher and two crowns. Makes it very interesting indeed. Clasp is, it's very sort of simple. It does have that sort of safety clasp as well, and you pull it out and it's just fold over like that, but it's very sort of period to sort of that sort of 80s or 70s 80s look. I've managed to find a white dial version of this, but I really do like the blue, and I came across this by sheer accident, and I made a bid and I won it, and now it's in my hand. I've got to say the pictures that are advertised are completely different to what I actually got in my hand. That's why I say this is why I like to have the actual watch physically under my, well, behind my lens, and sort of just to have that real experience. I mean, that dial cannot be even lived with my recording, even with my high-end sort of camera. It really needs to be taken outdoors and shown you in the sort of bright lighting and in the shade, and to really show you the depth of that blue. It is absolutely stunning, and especially with the blue against the red markings. And as you can see here on the sort of 9 o'clock and 6 and the 3, there's even a little bit of red on there, but there is a lot of detail in this. So when you're comparing this next to this SEIKO here, they've really added this same sort of a level of sort of entertainment or equipment. So what is the point of having Pulsar and SEIKO? Is it because SEIKO means something else and Pulsar is, I don't know, it's really sort of a strange one, whereas I can just say these two are on par with each other. There's nothing I can really say to separate them, to actually say which one is actually better. If anything, I would probably say the Pulsar is just a little bit more refined. I don't know, it just has a little bit more, maybe it's a little bit more expensive look. I don't know if because of the lugs and how they are designed, it's just given it a little bit more effort, whereas this is just chiseled out from a block of steel, isn't it? And they've just used nothing but right angles and a compass to make the dial. There is nothing more to this, whereas this actually goes to a little bit more detail. And here at the bottom here where the end link is, This is part of the case, but with a little bit of studying, doesn't go all the way through, so you could sort of put a different strap on that if you wish, but I think, hey, you really need to keep this all original because it really just matches the all silver bezel. So there is the other Pulsar. I like the 3 subdials that are in white, and again this one is in that blue, but this blue is just incredible. In fact, that dial could actually fit in this case here, but hey, I'm going to leave it all original and just enjoy this watch as it is. I mean, I will come to a point to sell it, but at the moment I really just need to enjoy this more. I've decided I'm going to keep it completely fresh and NOS, and whoever buys this watch will actually really appreciate it, and being that it's NOS will actually feel like it's a brand new watch. Well, it is a brand new watch really. Anyway, that is sort of my little chat about these 3 watches here, what to sort of maybe look for. So what I do, just go on to say eBay as an example and just type in 7T32 or 7T62 and just see what comes up. You're going to find either a SEIKO or a Pulsar, maybe an Alba, maybe another make, I don't know, whoever uses these movements, but I really like this sort of style of movement. Really is very nice on the eye. Yeah, this one here is going to become the collectible of them all. I think this is really going to pick up. I just feel like this one is going to appeal to the most. It's very dark. It's very sort of that sort of secretness as well. It's a very Bond-like, I would say. Whereas this one's it's a little bit bolder and it has the colour. Maybe the red and the blue is too much. And maybe for some of you, you're probably getting a bit fed up with the Pepsi colours. You know, it's been done to death. You want the full fat Coca-Cola like this one here. Anyway, that is the sort of chronograph times. And as always, thanks for watching.